more judges, and retention. So, in the back of the room is a newspaper called The Courier, and it's the League of Women Voters over Sky. And here's one. Oh, yeah. Pick one up. It has the information particularly about the judges. Okay? And if you have a site where you think people would be picking them up, it's a diner, it's a restaurant, it's a bar, it's a place where people congregate and you want to take a few extra, we have some, because we would like to be sure that people have a chance to see them. But the information is particularly valuable for those who are running for judge, or for the candidates, for you to find out. Okay. Next thing I need to tell you, if you are an online person, go to smartvoter.org. You want to be able to remember that. There's a flyer on the back. Has information about all the candidates, shows you your ballot. You put in your address and it shows you your complete ballot. Okay? I also want to put in a plug for the local government academy. I know that we did it in the spring. Did you gentlemen sign up to take the LGA class?
Not yet.
Not yet, but you could say you were expressed interest in it.
Hey, I've gone to some of them, they're very good.
Okay.
Let me interrupt you with that.
Yes.
The candidates can sign up for that course with no obligation if they're not successfully elected. So you can register in advance.
And Bellevue candidates may get a discount. There are scholarships available. Apply for it. Okay? Okay? You learn all sorts of things. What you learn at the LGA classes depends on when you go. You learn about planning and zoning and why the solicitor is important and how to deal with the public, about public relations, about the media, all sorts of things. It's a multi-week class and it's very, very valuable. Okay, number of thank yous. The name of the Chamber of Commerce is North Suburban Chamber of Commerce. Kathy Ferry, I can come up with that faster than I can. The Chamber of Commerce, Liberty and Bellevue have been very supportive and assisting us in putting this evening together, and we really appreciate it, and we're delighted to have all of you here. So, my next thing is, now that you're comfortably seated, to stand up and do the pledge, okay? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I'd like to introduce our moderator, Mr. Broughton.
I don't think I was. There we go. Okay, I am delighted to be back in Bellevue. It is nice to see not quite as big a crowd as last spring, but nevertheless, a good crowd. Those of you who were here last time will remember that they had me sitting down there and looking up, and they haven't done that this time, so I'm here, and that means that there's a couple of things that I want to suggest. First of all, I hope that there is a stairwell on that side, so I hope that the candidates can come up and exit the platform that way, so I don't have to move this chair. And I barely managed to stand up and turn around to see the flag without falling off the platform, so that would help. And then if we could tilt the signs just a little bit. Well, that one, no, that's too much. Yours was fine. Joe, if you could tilt it just that way, I can barely see. Now, the audience has to see too. It's really for them. But the advantage of being up here is that I can see the timer, which I couldn't last time. They had to keep telling me that I hadn't cut off somebody who'd gone over their time. So I'd like to, you've met Annette. Our other question editor is Shirley McKildree. And our timer, I'll wave something up, yes, there we go, is Bobby Harvey, or Dr. Barbara Harvey. So, okay, I'd like to start, and I'm going to try to get 5 or 6 questions in from Mayor, and then we're going to rotate the council, and then we're going to get the school board. So, would each of you please take about a minute and introduce yourselves? Let's start with Mr. Cusick.
My name is Paul Cusick. My name is Paul Cusick. I'm a former mayor. I was also on council. Currently, I'm the borough treasurer for the last 8 years. I'm a Vietnam veteran. Graduated Robert Morris College. I graduated with a major in accounting. I worked for Verizon for 32 years. I'm the current treasurer of Bellevue Church for the last it's almost 34 years now there. I'm the treasurer for the Chamber of Commerce. I'm the executive director and treasurer for the Herman Museum, the one down the street that everybody knows about but nobody goes to. We're going to try to change that. We're right now renovating the place, so in about 2 months we'll be back open. I'm also the commandant for the North Hills section of the detachment of Marine Corps League, the Three Rivers Detachment, and I'm also involved with the Military Order of the Cootie, which is part of the VFW. We go to visit the guys in the hospital. I'm currently running again for mayor because I believe that we need a bit of a change in Bellevue. I want to work with the council to try to get things done, to try to make Bellevue a better place. Thank you.
Okay. Joe? I'm going to use first names, it's easier.
Hi, I'm Joe Sosha. Lived in Bellevue over 40 years. I graduated from the Virginia Military Institute with a BS in physics. I've spent nearly a lifetime in one component of the military or another. I'm still in the Army Reserves. And I've been in the chemical business, the electronics business, and currently I help manage a worldwide logistics business. I was on council for 9 years, and I just think council and the government in Bellevue in general could do a much better job encouraging business and lowering taxes. So I want to make, I'm not in a hurry to leave Bellevue. I want to make it a better place, and I don't like the direction it's been going. That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, you have both actually answered one question that came, so I'm going to put that aside. It says, why do you want to be mayor? I think you both answered that. So let me start with another one. Let's start with sort of a general one, and let's start with Joe. What do you think is the single most important issue facing the borough, and what would you do about it?
I think the single biggest issue facing the borough is taxation. If you don't lower taxes, I think we're already in the tax death spiral. And what happens once the combination of municipal and school taxes reaches a certain level, all you're going to get is Section 8. If you fix up your home, you're going to be punished for it with high taxes. So until we get taxes under control, both the borough and the school district, we're going to head for it. We're going to start looking more and more like the other municipalities in Allegheny County that have comparable tax rates. So getting spending under control would be my biggest issue.
Okay, Paul, please.
I believe the biggest issue in Bellevue right now is the, I don't want to say the failure of code enforcement, but that's what comes to mind. I think we have to emphasize the residential district and repairing the sidewalks, the steps, the houses. As I walk around campaigning, I've got about 500 streets to go. But some of them are, you've got beautiful places here, and yet 2 doors next, down the street, there's quarters and broken steps and sidewalks. And it's a code enforcement, I think. The business district will be a reflection of the residential district. And I think we have to enforce the code ordinances and fix the place up. So that would be my answer.
Okay. long are those taking? We're under a minute?
Those were under a minute.
Okay. That's okay. Are you giving a 30-second warning for them?
No, because I didn't know how long you wanted them to speak.
Oh, a minute. A minute. I'm sorry. Miscommunication with my timer. It happens. All right. Now, the next question would go to Paul. What experience do you have setting and working with budgets? Fun question.
Well, one of the major jobs, I was 8 years as the mayor. One of the major jobs of the mayor is preparing a budget each year. I've been almost 8 years now as the treasurer. I'm totally involved with the financial situation of the borough. I'm involved with the Director of Administrative Services, our borough manager, setting up the budget. I have 34 years as treasurer of the Bellevue Church. Each year we have to present a budget to our board of session. I have a degree in accounting, and so I've been very familiar with what's going on financially with the budget and the finances of the borough.
Well, I haven't had any direct experience with the borough's budget, which is, I believe, around $6 million. I do manage and help manage my company's budget, which is approximately $350 million. So we track all incoming funds, all outgoing funds, all salaries, all business expenditures, using spreadsheets, and no problems.
Thank you. Okay. Bellevue is, municipal structure is as a borough. So my understanding of that is that one of the mayor's main duties is supervising the police force. So this question is, what changes will you make to the police force? And let's see, I think it's Joe's turn to go first.
Actually, I love we have a younger police force now, and they're much more on the street and correcting people that are having problems. So I'm very happy with the direction the police force is taking. The only thing I would do differently is ask them to smile a little more when they pull you over, because they're looking mighty stern, and that'll be the only thing. I'm very happy with the way the police force is operating just now.
Okay, Paul?
I think the only thing I would do with the police force is to make sure they're a little bit better trained with the new technologies and things coming in, the cameras. They have to know the laws, how they're used. I think that my main concern with that I've dealt with over the years with when I was mayor was the 4th and 5th Amendments, that they are very much protected. The search and seizure and the protection of the liberties. And that I think they have to be very well trained, especially with the new technology and how it is used.
Okay. Here's one that I think maybe you can take a whole minute on, because I think this has a lot in it. Given a time frame of 5 years, what major or noticeable changes do you foresee in Bellevue? A little bit of visioning here. Let's see, I think it's Paul's turn to go first.
I guess my vision for Bellevue in the next 5 years would be an improvement in the residential areas. Possibly tax abatements to help fix up the buildings, code enforcement. I think that will, I think we are slowly sliding a little bit downhill with the quality of life in Bellevue. And I think that working with the council, the police department, and the code enforcement, I think we can make Bellevue a better place to live. As for the business district, I think we have to, again, we can use tax abatements. We can, I think the idea of the streetscape that they're doing right now is a very good idea. That's where the government should be involved. I think business will take care of itself, and I think we can try to work with the business, with the Chamber of Commerce to make that a better place also, to make a business area better.
Okay, thank you. Visioning a little bit here.
Well, if I were mayor, I would strongly encourage the business to come into the borough, but again, without lower taxes, You're going to have what I saw when I went door to door, which is a record number of houses where people have simply walked away. So no amount of code enforcement is going to fix an abandoned house. We're just going to end up tearing it down. So unless you want a lot of green lots on your property, like in your town, like they have over McKees Rocks, you have to lower taxes, or no one's going to fix up their house and be punished for it. So I don't think things are going to be pretty unless we get spending under control. That's all I have.
Okay. Let me ask a question of both of you, just to follow up on that, since you mentioned tearing something down. Does the borough have the authority to do that?
If a house is abandoned, you can't find the owner, and it's a hazard to public safety, you can be taken down. But we have to pay for it.
Is that how you feel too?
Yes, we would take possession of the property, tear it down, and put lien on the property, and hopefully sell it and get it back on the roads. A lot of times with an abandoned house, it can be fixed up, depending on the condition of the overall structure. Just because the windows are broken doesn't mean it has to be torn down. So we want to get it back on the tax rolls of our main item.
Okay. This question, I'm having a little difficulty understanding exactly what this means, but I'm going to try to make it clear. It says, what will you do according to the Boca Code? And then I think the person means to the borough, school district, and county properties, rather than to individual residents. Is the person who wrote this out there?
Yes, I live on Dakota Avenue, the county, the school district, and the borough own the property behind my house.
Okay, so...
They have done nothing to it for 30 years.
Okay.
It's a dump site.
I got you.
And
Thank you.
everybody knows about it.
So I now understand the question. So what can you do as mayor to try to correct that situation? I've lost track. I think it was Joe's turn first. I'm not sure.
Is that the property at the end of Dakota?
That's behind Dakota. It's all behind Dakota Avenue. There's an easement, the county, the school district, and the borough own it. 9-10 years ago, the borough workers were on strike. So what they decided to do was just go back and backfill over all the garbage that was dumped back on Dakota Avenue. It's a street that goes up and then North Hills.
Okay, so it's a street off of Dakota?
Yeah.
I guess I'd have to go take a look at it.
Well, what I'm saying is everybody knows about it. The police station's out, the police stay down there, the water company. Everybody goes down there, the borough knows they own it, but they don't want to cause conflict with either the school district or the county.
I don't want to spend too much time back and forth here.
Oh, sorry. Well, just to try to be a little more succinct, there was a comparable issue, perhaps a little more dramatic, where on Farragut Street, which goes down to the river, there was a sewer, a manhole cover missing, and there was about a 20-foot drop down, and it took a bit of debate to figure out who really owned it. So once we figured out Alcosan really owned it, then our borough manager was able to pressure them to put a proper plate over it. So once we figure out who's got clear title to it, then pressure can be applied to
The school district and the borough.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to stop, please. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, one area behind Dakota belongs to Ross Township. We're right near the line now.
This is a 30-foot easement.
Okay, if it's definitely Bellevue, then we'll have to look at, it should be, have you brought it up with council and reached?
When you were there.
Okay. And I don't remember ever hearing about it. But, it should be looked into. We'll look into it, if I'm in there, we'll look into it. Because when I was up there walking, some other people were complaining about that. So, all I can say is I'll have to research it. I don't know the condition of it.
Okay, I think Jim, I think you have successfully brought this to the attention of the candidates, and possibly to the council candidates who are still sitting in the room. So, thank you. Let me go on here. There are two questions here, and I'm going to try to combine them. I've got about 5 minutes left in this portion, and I'm going to try to get through the remaining questions I have here. One person says, how do you feel the position of mayor can work with the school board? And somebody else says, how do you anticipate lowering taxes without hurting the school district? I think these are related. We want to tackle those, starting with Paul.
The school board taxes are are going to be handled by the school board. As for working with them, I think we have worked with them with the school resource officer, but when it comes to taxes, we have to look at the value of the property, the services that we want, and how we're going to pay for them. The best way of doing it is finding efficiencies such as merging the police departments. We've talked about it before. I worked when I was on council. We lost the ability to do that by 48 votes. It took me 10 more years. In 2005, we now have the ability to merge the police departments. We can merge the fire departments, but I still like the idea of paid fire drivers because they're there all day long. But I think with the using the efficiencies of working with other municipalities, I think we have probably the best chance of keeping the taxes as low as we can.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah, Paul and I can work on municipal taxation. We have almost no effect whatsoever on the school board. It's a completely separate body. And we've tried working with them in the past. We looked for the opportunity of perhaps sharing technology, but again, they're under different rules than we are. So we were limited even in that aspect. But we're always happy to work with them. Like Paul said, we have a school resource officer over there, and that's about the extent of, and if you think of something else, some way we can work with them, we'd be happy to do that. But we're really limited on what we can do with the school.
Okay, Joe, hold on to that microphone. How do you feel about having alcohol sales in Bellevue? Is that a perennial question?
It is, and I used to be a firm fence sitter, and I had asked the previous police chief what would happen if he had alcohol sales, and he said, well, we'd have more alcohol-related crime. But we'll never have another great restaurant like we used to have unless they were able to sell alcohol. So for restaurants to sell alcohol, I think it's necessary. You know, it's a divisive question, but if we ever hope to be an upscale community, which would be my hope for the town, we're going to have restaurants that can sell alcohol.
Okay, Paul?
Well, as you may know, I was part of the No Alcohol in Bellevue committee before. I have kind of changed my mind in the sense that I would, if we can find ways of getting a license where we don't have just the bars in the middle of Bellevue. We have, I have a problem with that. I don't want Bellevue to go downhill. However, I think it's time that we do take a look at what the rest of the county is doing. Everybody else seems to survive fine with it. So I have mixed emotions about it. As he calls, maybe a bit of a fence sitter, but I would probably, at this point, not oppose the change in the law.
Okay, last question, real quick. It's probably a yes or no question. Well, no, it isn't quite. It says how. How will you make attendance and participation in meetings a priority?
I found out usually if there's a big issue, the attendance, there's no problem with the attendance. I think if we can keep the people informed as the society becomes more online, I think that we have to go the same direction, use the technology that's there, whether it's Facebook or whatever, to try to get the word out as to what's going on in the borough, keep the people informed, and because when there's nothing really happening, we get a lot of apathy. People just don't get interested. Sometimes that's good, it means things are going well, and it takes what we've had recently with the problems at council where, and now everybody's involved. You've got Liberty in Bellevue, who rose up in the last 2 years or so because of the problems we've had at council. I think if we work and have a better council, more working together rather than us and them type of mentality, I think we'll keep the people informed, keep them happy, and keep them informed technology-wise.
Okay, Joe, you got the last word.
Okay, if you were talking about politicians participating, shame on them if they're not. If you're talking about keeping the public informed, nobody writes letters to the editor like I do, or like I did when I was in office. So I've probably done more letters to the editor than all of council combined for the last 20 years. So I don't have a problem communicating with the public or expressing my ideas logically.
Okay, thank you. That was very interesting because I read this question in my mind totally differently from the way you guys interpreted it, which is fine. Okay, if you can sort of exit that way, and there should be 1, 2, 3, 4. let's go with 1 minute introductions. So let me start, well, we've got microphones at that end, so let's start with Henry. And would you briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, can you hear me? My name is Henry Leonard. I'm a lifelong resident of the First Ward of Bellevue, graduate of Bellevue High School, graduate of Duquesne University. My background is in publishing and marketing. I'm a former editor of the Pittsburgh Business Times, worked for industrial publication, I was marketing director for 2 top 10 Pittsburgh law firms. I currently have my own home-based marketing business. I'm a correspondent for an online publication called Robotics Business Review. Beyond that, I'm running for office because I think it's time for a change in Bellevue. I read the Lib Posts, I read the Citizen, I see a lot of dissension, a lot of disagreement about what's going on. Bottom line is, there's a lot of positive things going on in Bellevue, and I don't see the positive being emphasized. I just see the negative, and I think all the negative talk about Bellevue is dragging the community down. You know, we've got to emphasize the positive and work to improve the negatives. We just can't negative, negative, negative. You do that, you're going to lose the good things going on in Bellevue. That's why I'm running for office. I would appreciate your support.
Do you want to know why we're running or just about us?
Introduce yourself any way you want.
Good evening, my name is Kathy Coder, and I lived in Bellevue when I was single, and I moved all the way to Seattle and Atlanta, only to come back 3 blocks and live right where I lived in Bellevue. And I had no intentions of getting involved in government until we invested money in a house, and I realized the town was on the decline. So I went to a council meeting and I saw a gross display of leadership, and that's what I do for a living. I felt like this town really needs leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. So I got appointed to council, and then I've been in council for 4 years, and I have a master's degree in leadership, and I also own my own business. And hopefully I'll get to tell you why I'm running the next round.
Okay.
Good evening.
I'm not sure, you may have to work it in, but I'll figure out something.
Good evening. I first wanted to thank you guys for all coming out. My name is Grant Saylor. I'm a lifelong Bellevue resident, minus a couple years that my job took my family out to the Philadelphia area. We came back to Bellevue because it truly is a hidden gem in Pittsburgh. We have a great community here with a lot of really positive things. We do need to experience a little bit of change in Bellevue. We need to revitalize the community, and I'm sure we'll get into a little bit of that as well as we move on. But my wife, who happens to be my high school sweetheart, and I have raised our 3 kids here. It's a great community, and we love it. And I'm running for council in the 3rd Ward to try to help to make a difference in the community that my children are growing up in.
You're next.
Hello, I'm Vincent Minosky. I'm running in Ward 2 for council. I came here about 7 years ago. I grew up in the Keys Rocks, but I finally bought some property, and as you do that, you become a little bit more concerned with what's going on in the neighborhood. So therefore, I went to a couple of meetings, saw a couple of things I didn't like, maybe a couple of things I did like, and said, saw there was opportunity to run for council, and I think I could bring something good to the table and work with people and try to bring up the community in ways that it needs to. And that's all. So, thank you.
Okay, one thing I meant to mention before I started is that for Ward 2, there are 2 seats open and there are 2 candidates. So there isn't a contest there for Vincent. But we thought that it was important for the people who came tonight to hear what all of their candidates, how they feel about all the issues. So we did not eliminate where there wasn't a contest. I'm sorry, I'm tripping over my words here. Okay, now we're going to sort of rotate. So we started with Henry last time. We start with Kathy this time. Here's the first question. Name the top challenge facing Bellevue today and how you hope to address it.
Well, I think the top challenge is the fact that we need to increase our tax base and get people to come here. And if you look, Allegheny Together told us it's an inside-out process. It has to start in the business district. People ride through and they judge you on your business district. So I believe we need to do a better job with our business district, making it attractive, as well as the residential district with code enforcement. So there are a lot of tentacles to what I think the challenges. I don't know if there's one particular challenge that is the challenge, but I think we need to increase our tax base and work with the school district, because people definitely look at our school district.
Okay, Grant?
So I'm going to echo a little bit of what Kathy mentioned. So I firmly believe that the business district needs to be a very, very strong priority. Allegheny Together, as Kathy mentioned, there's a group called BDAC, the Business District Advisory Committee, that there has been absolutely no action from that committee since September of 2012. October, November, and December, the meetings were canceled in 2012, and there's been nothing since. That needs to be reactivated, because that is an integral part of putting together a business plan to revitalize the business district. And I have some other thoughts, but I'm going to run out of time here. But tax incentives to businesses that are coming into the borough, we need to make it easier for a young entrepreneur to open a business, to make it attractive for them to be here. Restaurants, shops, those are what bring people into the business, into the district to shop, and therefore want to be a part of the community and buy property and invest in the community.
Okay, well, you may have a chance to come back to this, because as I look at my questions, there's a lot about the business district here. Yes, Vincent, you are next.
I think one of the big challenges for Bellevue, along with the business, is keeping our community clean. So with blight properties falling apart and property owners not being responsible for them, I think something needs to be done with that. As well as crime. I hear a lot about drug use and everything like that, going robberies, and I understand we do have a good police force, so maybe if we can get the community to pull together and do some crime watches on their street and help communicate with the police, that we can all work together and improve that situation. And that's it.
Okay, and back to Henry.
Thanks, Grant. Businesses are not going to want to come to Bellevue if there's a perception that Bellevue is not a place they want to locate their business. That goes back to when Vince was talking about code enforcement. Paul and Joe were mentioning they're walking the streets of Bellevue, and virtually every block in Bellevue has a property that's not maintained. I live on Keswick Avenue. There's a house at the end of our street, absentee owner. They moved out, the tenant moved out, the absentee owner cleaned out the house, had a stack of garbage. Honest to God, it had to be 10 feet tall and 10 feet wide. It was there for 6 weeks because the Bellevue, the garbage contract only allows so many pieces picked up each week. So that property stayed with God knows what in front of it for 6 weeks until all that garbage was removed. If I was a business owner driving through Bellevue, I saw that. I don't want my business in a place that looks like that. Proper code enforcement first, then the businesses want to come to Bellevue.
Okay, we will move on to the next question, and Grant, will you take this first? Thank you. This is sort of a long question. I've heard many people say that they are unaware of council's activities and ideas for the community. As a council person, what would you do to improve community outreach, and what steps would you take to market Bellevue inside and outside our community?
That's a great question. I think the very first place that I would start is to redesign the Bellevue website and have a little bit more accountability to the website. As I look on the website, I go to the council meetings regularly. There has not been an agenda or minutes from a meeting posted since I believe October of last year. So the community cannot be abreast of what's going on in the meetings. So first of all, I think we need to educate the borough as to what is happening in those meetings, let them see the minutes from those meetings, but also there needs to be a marketing plan set up to promote the businesses in the borough, and also outside the borough to entice people to move to the borough. We have a lot of professionals that live in the area, that work at Allegheny General, that work in town, that don't know anything about Bellevue. We have a great community and we need to market it as such.
Okay, Vincent, next.
I think partnership with businesses, as put maybe flyers into their windows as we're having here tonight. I don't know how many businesses have this kind of event in their windows, if there are any, because it is important for the community to know that we are having these events, so you can participate and understand what we're doing, along with the grant, maybe with the website. But also, I think maybe a kiosk in the center of town where everyone knows it's like a community bulletin board, and for yourself, you can check, that board if you're not on the internet. So I strongly feel that there is a missing link between the events that happen in Bellevue and the community.
Okay, all the way back to Henry, please.
Seems like there are a lot of good ideas, but very poor implementation of those ideas. You go to the Bellevue website, it says sign up for the Bellevue newsletter. I cannot tell you how many times I've signed up for that newsletter in the past year and have not gotten a single email, even confirming you're on the newsletter list. You know why? The newsletter doesn't exist as far as I know. Great idea, nobody implements it. A lot of good ideas are out there. People have, let's read it on our website, but you got to maintain it, you got to keep it updated. If you don't do that, it's nothing. The internet is constantly changing. You got to update that daily. You can't have a static site that gets updated monthly, twice a year, if ever. That's very important. I like Vince's idea of having a kiosk in the center of town. There's a kiosk right outside the Borough Building. It's only a block off Lincoln Avenue. If anybody really wants to know what's going on in Bellevue, walk up and take a look. Paul Cusick's Bellevue Borough News website updates what's going on. The Citizen updates what's going on. There's ways to find out what's going on in Bellevue. It's just a matter of people taking the step to be willing to know what's going on, and also to make sure that we keep that information fresh and current so they can stay current.
Okay, Kathy?
You put time and money in what you value, and we haven't put much time or money as a borough into marketing. We talk a lot about marketing, but we haven't done that. So there needs to be accountability around that. And we have a lot of different people in Bellevue. So we have people who aren't going to use Facebook or social media, but we need to cater to that crowd as well as printed media. And there's a group of us here tonight independently that made a newsletter, and I walked house to house and actually delivered the newsletter. People loved it. But the borough needs to take that on. And also, externally, I believe as council people, we are ambassadors for Bellevue. So I have gone out as a council person. I'm going to be the president of Connect, which is the 36 municipalities with the county and going to the county and all these different groups like the COGS. Bellevue has been poorly represented in those groups. So I think we need to get out there and be ambassadors for our community.
Okay. Let's see. We are up to the next question. Vincent, yes. Yep. What importance do you put on maintaining a public library, including the physical upkeep of this historic building?
I believe that's a priority. To keep the community educated, you need good resources, such as the free system of the library. Where can you go with to get better help for many different projects at home, children, community, and it's located in a beautiful park. So I do believe that the library should be a top priority in Bellevue, and it should be taken care of in any means that it needs to be. But I can tell you, after attending a couple council meetings, there are times when the librarians are supposed to be, maybe delivering some messages to council of what is going on in the libraries, and they have been absent. So hopefully that improves as well.
I agree that the libraries are a very vital part of Bellevue. But it's more than the library, it's Main Park itself. And the skateboard park, great addition to Main Park. Has anybody been up there the day after kids have been skateboarding and the Public Works Department hasn't had a chance to clean up the park? It is a mess. It is a filthy mess. There are garbage cans everywhere. Very few people use those garbage cans. If I was going to the library, I was cutting through the park by the skateboard park, I would be deterred to go to the library because I would think this is not a safe place to be because this is not a very well-maintained area. If we keep the park clean, more people go to the library. The library itself, and I agree with Vince, they have the minutes each month, report from the librarian. I don't think it's that important for a librarian to be at Bellevue Council, give an update on the library to tell you the truth. I had a talk with one of the Bellevue librarians a couple months ago on one of my walks, and she had a great idea. Stop littering on Bellevue streets. That's a great idea. Find a business, do it best hardware, somebody in the business district to partner with that and clean up the streets of Bellevue. Clean up all of Bellevue. That's very important.
Well, I believe our library is a treasure. However, you need to have a plan if you are going to upkeep it. And that has been a problem with Bellevue Council is we're very reactionary and we're trying to have a plan. We tried to do the pediments for the windows and it took 3 years to get that done. So we need to have a plan and we need to execute the plan. And I believe the money's in the budget and we need to put the money in the budget if it is the treasure we say it is. Saying and doing are two different things.
So I'm going to talk about the library and the park as separate entities. The library, I think, is a very vital piece to a small community. I think it's very underutilized. I think part of that is based on the fact that it needs some updates. This is 2013. I don't know when the last time I reached for an encyclopedia was. Everything's done online now, so I think we need to kind of integrate some of that technology into the library a little bit more. As for the park, we have a beautiful gem in Bain Park. I think the skate plaza was a terrific addition to Bellevue. I think what we need to do is I think we need to address the kids that use that and make them ambassadors for Bellevue. Find a way to involve them in the community and have them see the community for more than just the skate plaza. Have some of the older kids as kind of ambassadors that are saying to the younger ones that are dropping things on the ground, hey, pick that up, this is our park.
Let's see. Yes. Back to me. Okay, let's take ourselves back to the business district, because there seems to be a lot of interest in that. So this card has 3 questions on it. I think we've addressed the first one. I'm going to take the middle one. Do you have proven experience that will benefit the revitalization to ensure that we are not wasting taxpayers' money? I think the question here is, what do you personally have to offer toward revitalizing the business district?
Going back about 35 years ago, well before the current Bellevue revitalization effort, there was another group started at Bellevue Revitalization Committee. I was a member of that. One of the things that committee got done was new facades along the business district. The crosswalks you see, that was all part of that original Bellevue revitalization 35 years ago. The problem is, and Joe's nodding his head, I'm sure he remembers all that. The problem is, you got to maintain it. We can slap new paint on a new building, give it a new facade. If you don't maintain it, 10 years later, you're going to be in the same situation you are now. A lot of great ideas out there. I'm looking at Brad Hazelwood. We're doing the streetscape plan right now. That's going to be great if it's maintained. If we put these aisle cuts in there, nobody helps maintain them, what's it going to look like in 5 years or 10 years? Great ideas, long-term implementation. Ideas are a dime a dozen. It's follow through that's the important stuff. I think if you follow through with the good ideas, you'll be success. If you don't, we're back in the same situation 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
Well, I have a background in business development as well as leadership, so I think I bring that to the table. But it goes back again, we need vision and strategy. So I think we need to look as a whole at our business district and see what it is we need and where the gaps are and go out and try to find those. As far as Allegheny Together, I was intimately involved in writing the grant for that. We got it, we were making headway, and then it stalled. So that the county does not look favorably upon us, and if we don't use the money they've given us. So we really need to work hand in hand with the county in the economic development, the state economic development, and we have people in our town, you mentioned Brad, who are experts at these things, and we need to listen to them and utilize them. We have people in our community who have spent hours trying to help with the business district, only to come to council and personal agendas take over, and it stalls and goes back. That's why there have been no BDAC meetings. So I think we need to work together towards getting that business district up and thriving again. Not that it isn't thriving now, because we have maintained a decent business district, but it can be much better.
So one of the things that I think that I bring to the table as far as looking at the business district is that I am currently a district manager for Starbucks Coffee Company, and I manage 25 stores from West Virginia out through central Pennsylvania. And part of my job is designing and implementing new programs and tapping into the resources that are available to implement and sustain those programs. So I think that that to Kathy's point is we need to not only begin something, but we need to have a long-term strategic plan to sustain the change, implement and sustain the change, and that's how we're going to revitalize the business district.
I do not have any prior degree in business, but I do have the eagerness, creativeness, and the openness to work with people. And I understand there's different programs out there with the county and the state that help with businesses. So therefore, I am very open, and I'm open to working with council in groups and finding out what needs to be done and what can be done and what sides are holding us back and moving forward.
Okay, I think Kathy, you're next, and this is the third question on this card relating to the business district. It just says, where will you get the money? And I think that what's wanted here is some discussion about how we might finance what revitalization can be done.
Again, I think it goes back to vision. People give to vision. So one of the things that happened, why we got a skate plaza, is we went and sold this as a multi-generational park, and the county bought into it. It's the same way with our business district. The people are going to give and get behind vision. So we have to have a vision, and they have to know we're going to follow through on that as well. So I think those are a couple of things that we can do. The other thing, which is huge, is public-private partnerships. There are private businesses that we can get involved, put their names on things, and they will invest money in our community. But again, we have to be ambassadors to go out of Bellevue and talk to people about what a great town we have, close to the city, and what we can offer them. So I think public-private partnerships and grant money are available if we just go out and do the work.
So if you pull up the Business District Advisory Committee webpage, it will link you to Allegheny Together. There is a list of over 20 national and regional business development resources available through Allegheny Together. I think one of the things that we need to do is we need to tap into those resources and see what's out there. The second piece of that is I think we need to swallow our pride and go out to some of these small communities who have experienced tremendous redevelopment and regeneration and ask them, what did you do? How did you fund what you did? And learn from them and bring some of that back and set up a strategic plan to be able to implement some of those strategies.
As I mentioned earlier, no degree in business. So I'm going to go with what Katie and Grant here had said, and they're going to give me the direction. I'll go knock at the door and say, hey, what can we do? Can we have some money? We got this great project. You'll love it. That's what I'll do. So again, I'm going to be a player, a team player, and help any way I can.
Okay, were you all here? Oh, yeah,
Thank you. That's one of my...
I thought that wasn't right, but
I wasn't trying to duck the question, believe me. I think it's important for Bellevue's elected officials to work with other elected officials. Our county council representative, our county executive, our state representative. There's all kinds of money out there. But if we don't build personal relationships with these folks, we're going to bypass them. We need to argue those monies. I mean, I want Governor Corbett to be coming to Bellevue and handing a big check to Bellevue for something project, not going to one of these other communities that he's doing. But how does that start? Starting, let's somebody proactively contact Rob Maxey, our state representative in Harrisburg, and get him involved to find money for Bellevue. Let's contact our county council representative, same thing. Call Rich Fitzgerald, have the county executive do a tour of Bellevue so he can see what's going on here. I know it's been done in the past. We need to do it regularly, not infrequently when they're scheduling and visiting every single municipality in Allegheny County. Let's make this a regular stop so people are aware of what we have here. Once they see what we have here, it makes it a lot easier to ask for money. You can't blindly ask for money if you have nothing to offer.
okay, I have only one more question here, I'm going to do something a little different. When we set this up, we thought we had, did I miss somebody yet? No. We thought we had 8 candidates sitting up here, and there are 4. So clearly it has taken less time than I expected. So what I'd like to ask each of you to do at this point is to take about 2 minutes, Bobby, 2 minutes, before I ask this last question, to expand on any of the questions that came before, complete thoughts that you didn't have a chance to complete, to tell you why, what was it Kathy wanted to tell us why she was running or something, to just expand. And I will tell you what the last question is so you don't do that. The last question, we asked our mayor candidates to sort of vision a bit, what does the borough look like 5, 10, 15 years from now? Don't do that, because that's going to be the last question. Just expand on whatever you would like to for a couple of minutes.
So who's first for this one?
I think you are.
I would like to expand on the business district because I firmly believe that is the linchpin to creating success in the community. So I think the first thing that we need to do, and I have 11 things that I feel are really key priorities to redeveloping the business district. The first one is to do a SWOT analysis. So for anybody who's not familiar with what a SWOT analysis, successes, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So we need to sit down collectively and discuss what the strengths are, discuss what the weaknesses are, discuss what opportunities we have and what threats we have, and put strategic plans in place to address those. The second thing we need to do is we need to talk to the community. What does the community want Bellevue to look like? The community needs to be involved in that process. We need to involve the local media to do everything that they can to promote that plan once that plan is put in place. We need to have a core group of dedicated people that are faithful to the borough that are able to drive that plan. We also need to make sure that the community supports the plan. So it needs to be told back to the community, here's what the plan is. And talk through what the goals are and make sure that they're clearly identified to the borough. Then go back and refine that plan and create some action steps to be able to implement that plan and sustain that plan. The Chamber of Commerce, really integral to the relationship between the council and the business district. We need to have a place where a young entrepreneur can come into Bellevue and find out what they need to do to open a business. It's a very daunting task for a young entrepreneur to come into Bellevue and figure out how to open a business. The last 2, incentives for new business, tax breaks, permitting, things like that, if we can give them discounts, market the community, and keep the business community involved.
Thank you, Grant. Vincent.
I don't know how the school board and the council works, if they're in connection, but I would like to see where the school district is improved. It seems to me that if a family is looking to move into a community, the first thing they're looking at, if they have children, is the school. So I think there's areas in the school, if the council does work with this area, we need to improve with. If it's a joint effort, I don't know if merge is important, if it's necessary, but I just think there's need improvements that are needed in the schools. Then secondly, of course, the business. Everyone speaks about the businesses. And not only bringing new business in here, but keeping the businesses that we already have, such as Deeds Floor Shop, the bakery, the hardware store, which just got sold, but someone, from what I understand, is going to keep it the way it is and maybe enhance it to make it even better for us. So that, I think, is a priority as well, is to keep the businesses. So it's important that we, as a community, we shop here first before we go out to the bigger stores, which I understand sometimes that's what we need to do, but if we can think in our mind, let's shop at Lincoln Bakery first before we go to China Eagle and get gas perks. And you can walk, so you don't even need gas perks. Or your little car. Yeah, I hate those little cars. Sorry. And then community of keeping their properties clean. I think we have very nice houses and homes here, and everyone does, I think, a pretty good job. But we can help encourage that just a little bit more with code enforcement. It'd be beautiful. We got the highway, we got Pittsburgh right there. We have lots to offer, so we can do it.
I just want to expand a little bit more about the code enforcement in Bellevue. Just about every day I take a walk from my home on Keswick Avenue, deep into Avalon and back, about 4 miles, walk through the entire business district. Let me tell you, you got some properties that are very well maintained, beautiful. You got some real eyesores in Bellevue. There's an apartment building in the corner of Grant and Lincoln. I don't know who owns it, but they do not keep that property maintained at all. I see the borough crew there every month or so doing the job that property owner should be doing. In the wintertime, you walk the business district. There are streets in the business district that are not, the snow is not removed. You're literally walking on 3 inches of solid ice. And we have a lot of elderly people in Bellevue that rely on walking to get to where they're going. We have a code enforcement officer. He needs to go to these businesses or find out who owns that building and say, hey, you haven't cleaned that sidewalk. And I think Bellevue ordinance, you have 24 hours after the snow ends to clean it. There are places 7 days after it's turned to ice and it's not being cleaned. Enforce those ordinances. Enforce the building ordinances. I mentioned earlier about the property in our street where the garbage was stacking up because they cleared out the building and the garbage, the refuse company picks up so many pieces each week. Where was the enforcement guy to come down and say, hey, you got to clean this up now, not wait for the 6-week cycle to end for all your pieces to get picked up? You know, I know our enforcement guy's trying hard. Maybe he's not trying hard enough. The answer is not get an assistant for him. It's enforce the ordinance we have. If he doesn't want to enforce them, let's get someone in that position that will. And it's plain and simple. It's not an easy job to knock on somebody's door and say, hey, you're in violation of Bellevue Borough ordinances. If our current zoning guy doesn't want to do that, let's get someone that will do it. That's part of the problem.
I'm going to, go down a little different track here about leadership. I got into this not because I ever wanted to be a politician. I saw the vision, which we're going to talk about for Bellevue. To me, my dad always said with dating, don't fall in love with potential. And I violated that with Bellevue. I fell in love with potential. So I believe we can make it better, but I scratch my head and I look around and go, why aren't we better? And that's why I got involved. But everything rises and falls on leadership. So we really need people in government, and I believe I'm the only one who's been on council up here, and people keep saying to me, are you crazy? Why are you doing this again? And the reason I'm doing it again is because I don't think we're finished. And as long as I'm here, I will fight with every part of my being to get this thing turned around. But we need people. You were talking about local government academy. I am the only person on council who's been to local government academy. I begged, I pleaded. We need people, and thank you, Vincent, for an open mind. People with open-mindedness that are going to come together for a common purpose, and that is to make Bellevue what it should be.
Okay, starting with Vincent, last question. What do we have for time? Let's make it a minute and a half. Okay? Can you deal with that, Bobby? All right. What would your 5, 10, 15-year plan look like for the borough, vision of it? And there's a second question here. How would you get the rest of the council on board?
We don't have alcohol yet, right?
We don't make it easy for you.
Right. I only have a minute and a half, sorry. 5, 10 years from now, it'd be nice to see all the businesses, all the shops, not vacant, but filled. A place for children to go, not just with school activities, but other activities that are in the community for them. They need a place to go play. And now we have parks and everything, but it'd be great to see them have like a rec hall or something. And I think the Shepherd's Door is also working on that with the children in the community, so that's a great thing to see. I'd like to see community, a lot more community events, like we have the great car cruise that goes on, that brings people from outside the city, and that helps us, show what we have. So a lot more events, such as park events. And I have some things I was doing beforehand called, I forget what it's called, but yeah, so just a safer, cleaner, more productive town.
I'd like to see a Bellevue where the ideas of newcomers are welcome, where the ideas of long-timers, old-timers are respected, and all those ideas come together to create the Bellevue we know it can be. I want a Bellevue where businesses want to come to, not want to move away from. And I think the second part of your question was how do we accomplish that with council? Council is too fractionalized. It shouldn't be about Democrat, Republican. It should be about Bellevue. That's the thing we have to keep reminding ourselves. I'm a Bellevue Democrat. Kathy's a Bellevue Republican. But we both live in Bellevue. I might have a good idea. Kathy might have a good idea. If Kathy has a good idea, I'm not going to say, whoa, that's a Republican idea. That's not a good idea. If I have a good idea, I would hope Kathy would say the same thing. I think the problem we see in Bellevue is too often it's politicized. Where is that idea coming from? Oh, it's coming from a Republican. I'm not going to deal with it. Oh, that's coming from a Democrat. I can't touch that. This is local politics. These are your friends and neighbors. These are the people your kids go to school with. These are the people that you're shoveling their walks in the wintertime, but come election time or whatever, party lines. It's almost like what's happening at the national level is trickle down to the local level. That's not a good thing, especially for a community like Bellevue. Joe was talking about the taxation issue in Bellevue. We got some tough issues that have to be confronted, and the only way we confront them is if we work together. If we try to politicize the whole process and be partisan about it, nothing will get done. In 5 years, 10 years from now, we'll be having the same conversation, although probably in an abandoned building. Thank you.
As far as vision goes, I think we need to come together for a common purpose and actually have a plan. That's been lacking, and then accountability to the plan. Right now, everything is very random, very knee-jerk, so I think that's really important that we have a plan and we stick to it and get things done. And that's regarding parks, that's regarding our business district safety, all of that needs to come together and have people come together. We did this a few years ago, and we actually have a plan, and I have it, and we checked a lot of things off. The skate plaza was one of those things. How do you get council to come together? And I will tell you, I sit up here, I do leadership development. In a corporation, you can fire people. In a church, you can move people around, and I've done all of those things. In elected officials, you can't do a darn thing about it. If they're going to put their feet in the mud and say, I'm not going to do it, you can't change other people. So I have decided the only person I can change is me, and I try to work on how I react and how I work with other people. But quite frankly, I have learned through these years that you can't change people, and if they don't want to work with you, they're not going to work with you. But let's hope we have a guiding coalition of people who do want to do that and come together for the betterment of the borough.
So let me start very quickly with my 15-year plan. I'm retired, and I'm walking down from my house on the North Bow to a beautiful outdoor cafe to have my coffee and my morning bun. And I log on to the Bellevue website, and I see all the great things that are happening in the borough. So that's my 15-year plan. The 5 and 10-year plan is definitely that we need to have a council that works together, that puts the party lines aside and works for the betterment of the borough, and that we are inclusive of everybody in the borough, and that we are soliciting feedback from the borough and listening to the feedback from the residents of the borough, encouraging businesses and families to move in. And part of that, I know that the school board is going to address some of these things, but I think there needs to be a very strong partnership between the two boroughs that we live in, Bellevue and Avalon, and the Northgate School Board. I think that a strong community and a strong school district go hand in hand. I don't believe that you can have one without the other. So I think that we have to learn to collaborate and learn to adjust to the small town and boroughs that we live in and figure out a way to make it work for everybody.
Okay, thank you to all of these candidates. Does anybody need a card on which to write a question? Okay? If you do, just wave your hand around and probably one of us will see you. We'll try. Okay, timer ready? Timer's gone. All right, can we each take 1 minute to introduce yourself? Let's see. Microphone's here. We'll start with Lisa. I don't care. We'll go this way.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name's Lisa.
Is it on? Because I can't.
Can you hear me? All right. Hi, my name is Lisa Saylor. I am a resident of North Bell Avenue. I've lived in Bellevue the majority of my life, and as my husband stated earlier, we moved away for a few years, college, and then for his job. And then we decided to move back to the neighborhood, and the number one reason we moved back to the neighborhood at the time was the school. I loved having a small school district. I wanted my children to grow up in a small school district, along with everything that can give to you, with the theater and the band and the cheerleading and the football and just all of the sports and everything that you can do and to become a well-rounded person. A little bit more about me. I am a registered nurse. I have worked in intensive care. I've worked in recovery room, pain management. I'm not an educator. Okay. I have worked with children. I have a degree in child development and family relations, and I also have a psychology degree. Little bit working with children in the past. I was a counselor at the Bradley Center, which is for emotionally disturbed children. And then I've also written biographies of children in the CYS system who were being adopted. So I've worked with children, but again, I am a nurse and I'm not an educator. Is that a minute?
say drop the ball, maybe she dropped her paddle. Go ahead, Amy.
Hi, my name's Amy Joy Robinson, and I would just like to say thanks to everyone for coming tonight. I live in Bellevue. I live right on Dawson Avenue, and I didn't grow up here. I grew up in a very small town. It's actually really similar to this area in northern Pennsylvania, but I was lucky enough to end up here, and I lived here with my husband and my daughter, who's currently almost 16. She's a sophomore at Northgate. It's very scary. But I love this community. I've been an active parent volunteer at the elementary school, the high school, and also I currently work at Robert Morris University. I'm the university art director, and I work on PR and marketing. I manage the website, and a lot of my responsibility is helping to attract prospective students and make our university the university of choice for families in the area and outside of the area.
Okay, Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer McWilliams. I am also a lifelong community member and a Northgate graduate. I decided as well to move back here to the Northgate community after graduating school and marrying my husband to raise 2 children. I have a daughter, Callie, in 8th grade, also scary, and a son, Dylan, who is in 4th grade. We have 2 very active children within the community. And just a little bit about myself. I do a Master's of Education with 2 certifications in both elementary and special ed. And I am currently a special ed teacher at Easter Seals, as well as a community facilitator.
Good evening, my name is Daniel Clicker. I was born and raised here born in Bellevue, raised in Avalon. Spent some time at Duquesne University where I earned my bachelor's in music education. I did leave the boroughs for 1 year when I had my first, still have my job at Center in now Central Valley School District, and I moved back and now live in Avalon with my wife. And I'm a music teacher at Central Valley. I teach elementary music. It was really interesting to get to be a part of the merger with Monaca. I served on a lot of committees within the school district, and I'm also currently serving on the Northgate School Board.
Hi, my name is Brian Johnston. I'm also a lifelong resident of the district. I grew up in Avalon and moved back to Bellevue once I graduated from college, and also married my high school sweetheart who also grew up in Bellevue and graduated from Northgate. I'm a software engineer. I'm not an educator, but I am a parent who wants the best for his children, and that's why I decided to run for school board, because I felt that the current state of the school district and where it was heading wasn't the best for my children. So hopefully I could try to change that as best I can. Thank
you. Okay, let's do, yes. You got the system. Fine. Well, the first thing that seems to have come up here is class size. I think that comes up in every school thing I've ever been involved in. And I have 2 questions. One is, how do you feel class size impacts the learning environment? Let's take that one first. Let's take them separately.
Well, I think that class size it's important for sure, and I think that like any school district goal would be to have this like a smaller class size, keep the class sizes, where you have a good mix of students, so that like the students get a chance to mix with other people who might not be exactly the same as them. But I think that it's not always about class size. There's a lot that goes into it, the physical space, the teacher, the other children. I think that that if you have a chance to, well, the best case scenario would be to have a chance to like look at the class and the factors that go into that, and how many special needs children might be in there, and to set an optimal class size based on your individual district.
Okay, I knew this was going to be a hot topic tonight. In regards to class size, and actually the impact on the learning environment, the key to any learning environment is classroom management, which in the forefront of that is, of course, your teacher who's in that classroom. The teacher impacts the entire classroom and what happens in that classroom. Whether it's 25 children, 15 children, 30 children, I've seen it in all cases. I've been a teacher in all scenarios. If your teacher cannot manage a classroom, doesn't matter if they have 15 kids or 30 kids, the classroom will not be successful. So it does come down to management. Ideally, do we want 25 kids in a classroom? No, it's not an ideal situation, but it is manageable. It can happen. There are blue ribbon schools out there that have 25 children in their classroom. Differentiated instruction is key. You have to target the kids that need the target. You need to group the children in a way in which they need grouped. And I could go on for a long time.
Well, Jen stole some of my thunder. Being in education as well, classroom management really is the key. And I think having administration involved, and especially with the new evaluation tool, hopefully giving the teachers the support and the help they need to manage those kids can be a way to manage the sometimes inevitable larger class sizes. Although when I have a class of 21 in my room versus a class of 25, is it a little bit different? Yes. But giving the professionals the support they need is very important. Somebody at a meeting recently expressed concern about high school class sizes. And does class size affect things there? Yes, but these students are also going to be prepped for college, where they're going to be one of who knows how many in a lecture hall. And I think classroom management and supporting the teachers, giving them assistance they need in developing classroom management skills can help to deal with those sometimes larger class sizes and what would be desirable.
I think class size is very important. Like Dan just said, kids need prep for the future. But I think with changes in the way the Common Core curriculum right now is stressing college preparation, we're not trying to prep our elementary school kids for college. We're trying to help them learn. That's why I was against the teacher furloughs in January. And like Jen said, if a teacher can manage the classroom, it's good, and maybe they can deal with it. But that's why I was against the checkerboard furloughs of the elementary schools that put a teacher near the end of her career that had never actually taught in a classroom before in charge of 30 kindergarten students. And I, along with my wife and a lot of other members of the community, worked very hard to get the school board to overturn part of their decision and hire a fifth kindergarten teacher in the district against the superintendent's wishes. So I'm very much for smaller class sizes, and I think it's what's right for education.
So, being the last person up here, you almost feel like you're going to say the same thing that a lot of other people do. But I did look up class sizes and school rankings and noticed that a lot of the class sizes really didn't matter. I think it's Hampton, they have 25 kids per teacher, so that's a pretty high number. So does it matter? Of course it matters. It depends on your children, and I really think you need to look at each of the individual children, look at each child, and see what their learning is, and try to group the kids to be with other children who are learning in the same way they are. So children who can be with other children and learn quicker, they can be in a larger classroom. Whereas the other children who can't, maybe they should be in a smaller classroom or have an aide with them and have some other sort of assistance.
Okay. Yes, it's hard to be the last, that's why we rotate. Okay. I think you actually answered both of those questions, so I'm going to stick this one at the end. If we have time, we may go back to that. Somebody mentioned the Common Core, and that seems to be the topic of the next question. This person asks, what are some of the pros and cons of the Common Core?
Okay.
Tick them off.
Well, as we know, the Common Core is now here. We knew it was coming, and we need to embrace it. To resist it is only going to prolong the pain of it. I can tell you some pros and cons right off the bat. My first set of pros, it will increase the rigor of the classroom. I want my child to be challenged in their classroom. I don't want them to be bored. I want them to be pushed to excel. There is going to be finally across the board an accurate comparison to other states, where teachers with the Common Core can share best practices from Arkansas to New York, across the states, because they will be sharing the same curriculum. Let's see. The Common Core is going to encourage critical thinking, but we can go into the cons of the Common Core. It's going to be a difficult transition. We're not going to see the changes happen overnight. It will take time, and with that alone is a con. Really? Come here.
Would you like me to extend this?
Please.
Sure. How about the rest of the candidates? Are you okay with extending this a half a minute? You get a minute and a half each?
Okay.
All right, do it.
Okay. The Common Core does have the potential for teacher burnout because it is going to have a lot more required of them. And bottom line, the Common Core does bring, as far as a big con, more testing, standardized testing. We have high stakes testing. The PSSAs make everyone cringe. Well, there's going to be more testing with the Common Core. So that alone is a con. My biggest fear is the special needs. As of right now with the Common Core, I have yet to find an equivalency test for special needs students. That's a big red flag for me. I need to do further research on my own end to find out, is it up to the school to then change the test so that it can fit that student's particular needs? So again,
Okay, I'm going to stop you. We got to leave something for the rest of the candidates. Amplify.
Once again, Jen, you stole my thunder. As Jen said, the rigor of the Common Core is great. It's going to push our students to be the best students they can be. One of the cons is, and the concern, as Jen also mentioned, is it going to be the right way to push all of our students with diverse needs to be the best they can be, and that's yet to be seen. And a lot of this is very daunting and overwhelming because it's, in some ways, another mandate that's come down with minimal funding and lots of changes frequently with little notice that says, hey, we'll do this now. The Keystone exams will be this year. You know what? No, they'll be next year. How about January? Let's do them in January of this year. This is the communication that the schools get a lot of the times from the state. And so we lose some local control. It can be good because it can push us to be the best we can be. It has good transitional potential across state lines for students. But we do have to deal with more state involvement, with no increase in funding that I know of.
I can echo a lot of what Jen and Dan had said. One thing that I'm very wary of is, with respect to the Common Core, is it seemingly being driven by a lot of large corporations whose goal is to make money. So I don't like that. And like Jen said, I don't like all the high stakes testing. Like I mentioned at the last candidate forum, I had a calendar sheet from, it was an email from the superintendent that had the school calendar, and most of those days on the calendar was filled with high stakes testing to get in preparation for the Keystone exams or the PSSAs, and that could have been time devoted to learning, but it wasn't. It was devoted to the test. So there's a lot of things that I don't like that I read about it. Unfortunately, I wish I knew more about it. I know Jen had asked at the school board meeting if the school board would present a sort of a meeting explaining more of the details, and I think that would be very beneficial, although it hasn't happened. But like I said, I'm wary of the federal government mandating things that are sponsored by big business, and I'm concerned about how it could affect our children.
So the Common Core to me is it's really confusing, as I'm sure it is to most people. It is here, as Jen said. There's nothing that we can really do about that. totally, we have to align ourselves to it. We need to follow the state mandate, the national mandate of the Common Core. I don't like when funds are attached to testing and that and basically, from my understanding, that depending on scores is how much money is going to be coming to the schools. And I don't like that because I think that puts a lot of pressure on our children that they don't necessarily need. So that is a concern to me, and I have been looking online and trying to read up on the Common Core to find out how we can align ourselves to have the children do the best they can, but yet not put too much pressure on them. Again, I think that's going to have to come back to the fact that the school board are not the educators. The school board are the people that help to provide the means for the teachers to do their job. So we need to work with the teachers so that they can figure out a way to teach the kids, get the higher scores. One thing that I spoke with a few teachers about is they're a little concerned with this, about how, if I'm teaching science, then why am I teaching literacy? How am I going to teach all of it together? So it really is something that we all, as parents, need to educate ourselves and try to decide how we're going to work with the school board and the kids.
It's my turn to go last. I have actually been reading up a lot on the Common Core, and one thing that I have found is that it's very difficult to get an unbiased, fact-based piece of information, because if you go to the main Common Core website, of course, it's saying how great it is, and if you go to a lot of other websites, it's saying that it's the worst thing that's ever happened. And the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I've read that the rigor is going to be raised and that it's going to make our students work harder, but then on the other hand, I've read that it's lower than the standards that are now in place. So it is a little bit difficult to have a really passionate answer for this. But the one thing that I do feel that I've been able to figure out is that it doesn't offer much customization. And these days everything we do is customized. So I just find it a little bit backwards thinking that we're going to have this test and everybody's going to do it the same way, because we all know we don't take tests the same way, we don't learn the same way. I agree about this is a mandate that schools already are having trouble figuring out how to pay for everything that they have to pay for, and it's one more thing. It's new curriculum, it's new materials. I do want to say one thing before I run out of time in regards to the literacy part being worked into other classes. And I was really encouraged, in particular, one class I attended was chemistry. And they had to do a problem. They were using math to do a problem. And their writing exercise for the day was to write in words how they were able to solve that problem. I thought that was creative.
Okay, well, Jennifer, you laid out the bare outlines, and everybody else had a chance to fill in some details. Okay, Daniel, here is your one and only chance not to follow Jennifer. How would you approach the upcoming teacher contract renewal? Do you have any goals or any significant changes in mind?
I have to be careful how I answer this because I'm a member of the PSEA, so if I'm reelected, I won't be allowed to be on that committee. Something I would want to look at would definitely be supplemental contracts, and we definitely need to support the staff and the coaches, some of who probably don't feel like they're getting paid enough for what they do. We also have some redundancy where there are supplemental contracts that are negotiated that we can't do anything about, and people are getting paid to do what they get paid to do already. And we need to look at that and make sure that we're doing our due diligence in all aspects of the contract. We need to make sure we're doing what we can to treat our staff well, because we want our staff to want to come to work and to enjoy their jobs, but yet we need to be fiscally sound, and that's going to be quite a tightrope act.
Okay, yeah, we're at 1 minute, I guess, to do yes.
So, this is a tough question to answer because, obviously not being a member of the school board, I've never been through a teacher contract. But, I think one issue is we need to work together. The school board will have to work well with the teachers union. It can't be two sides battling each other. They have to work together. There has to be open lines of communication. Both sides have to be real upfront with how they're negotiating. So I think that would be one important aspect of it. That's
So, when you're talking about negotiations with people's, for the school and for the community, for the teachers and for the communities, that's a really, really tight rope to work on, because you want to make sure that your teachers are paid enough for what they do. They have a really, really difficult job. They are taking care of our children on a daily basis, and they need to be paid for that. On the flip side, we have to worry about all of the people in our community, and we need to figure out how we're going to be able to pay our elderly. Where are they going to come up with money to pay for our teachers and for everything that we have to, their insurance policies and everything as well. So we have to look on both sides. You as a school board member have to be a steward of both sides of it. So myself, what I will have to do is just kind of listen. I've never been on school board. I've never done a contract before. I'm not going to pretend that I have. But I will have to listen to both sides and make a decision based on what I hear from both sides and try to be the best steward for all.
Well, I also have no previous experience with negotiations, and it is something that's a little bit difficult to research, but I think I sort of agree with everyone up here that it's a really tough situation to be in. You don't want to go to someone who's doing their job, doing it well, and demand from them that they suddenly get paid less, or take things away from them that they're used to. That's a tough situation, and I've actually been in that situation before. But on the other hand, I think that unfortunately the economy is it's still in a little bit of a rough spot, although it's making progress, and I think that maintaining what the teachers have worked for, but also considering the facts that we can't just keep raising taxes on the people in our community. We have to come up with an agreement that works for everyone.
I'm glad you did that one first. In regards to this negotiation, okay, none of us want raised taxes. The reality is our taxes are going to be raised no matter what to sustain what we have now. So to raise them higher, we don't want that. Our community can't sustain that. So we have a responsibility, a fiscal responsibility as a school board to try to keep our taxes down as low as we can. It's hard to say that as a teacher because you want to get paid as much as you can be paid as well. But again, we have a responsibility to maintain Northgate so we have a Northgate in the future. That's our ultimate goal. Ultimately, you want to support your teachers, but we have to be sensible and we have to be reasonable, and they have to be reasonable with the request as well.
Okay, all the way down to Brian. This question says, what can we do to retain families with young children who seem anxious to move once children are ready to enter school? I wasn't aware that was happening, but if it is, what do we do?
Yeah, and I've heard that echoed before. So one, I think we should look at the numbers and identify if it's a trend or a perception. But I think one thing that can be improved greatly throughout our school district is communication. Communication through the school, from the administration to the teachers to the family at home. I think our school district could use a little bit more PR. Everyone, I'm sure, knows of the incident where the substitute was found passed out using heroin, and there's a lot of, that spread like wildfire through the internet, but there was no statement or PR, at least that I'm aware of, that was brought forth by the school district to sort of clear the air on the facts and what was going on. So, I think we could use a little bit of PR and improve communication through the parents. I know as a parent, when I was concerned about class size, like I said, sometimes as a concerned parent, I would talk to the school board and I wouldn't get an answer, and I'd call the superintendent and I get a vague answer, and so we need to improve on the communication.
I'm going to take a whole different avenue with that particular question. Yes, I know a lot of families that moved out of the area whenever their children became of school age, and I know a lot of people that say, I'm going to leave. And this is where I think that we have to have the community involvement, and we need to improve Bellevue and Avalon together. We need to make it a place where people want to move and where they want to stay. They're not going to just leave. Look at those school board meetings last year. Everybody, person after person going up, I love my teacher, I love my community, I love this. We need to go on to those and harness that energy and really promote Bellevue and Avalon in the community that we do have. You know, it's kind of like you look at those old paintings of the old communities, and that's where I think we could go again with this. We have the ability in these small towns. How many school districts can say they have, you know, this size? I mean, we have some little on the Pennsylvania State. It's the cutest little district, you know? I mean, we have that, and we can really exploit that by promoting the community as a whole.
Well, I think that there's a lot of things that we can do to help retain families, but the one thing that I've noticed, I think that the reports, there's like trends, reports that show the enrollment in the elementary schools and then versus the middle high school. And one of the things that I hear most often is not that the families want to leave when their kids are ready to enter school, but that they want to leave before their children get to the middle high school. And I've heard a lot of different reasons, because when someone mentions that, I try to ask them for a detail. Some of them we can change and some of them we can't, but continuing to ask what the issues are and fixing what we can, and also promoting the good news. They've recently added Northgate in the News tab to the website, and they're able to post things like about the grant that we just got for the pre-K counts thing. And some of our students, they're exceptional. They're doing wonderful things, and they're thriving in this small community, and they might not do quite so well in a large community.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Amy. Communication is key. We have the power to use our positive communication to sell Northgate, especially those of us who have kids in the district. Talk to your neighbors, talk to families around you, sell it. I mean, how many schools do you know that still have drama, that still have music class, that still have gym class, that have extracurricular activities, that have church youth groups, that have the shepherd store down the street having these functions? We have a community that has opportunities out there, and it's our job to sell this community to get them to stay here. And as far as negative talk, talking about administration and teachers and the district, we're the ones that hurt ourselves. We spread negativity, we kill our district, we kill our boroughs. So we have a chance to make a difference. And it starts up here with people running and making a difference. It starts with inside those school board meetings, showing up to them to start. That makes a difference, because then you're educated on what's even going on. Instead of just starting rumors, you're educated, you know what you're talking about. And those are just to name a few. I mean, we have such a positive impact and a chance to spread so much positivity throughout this district.
I think in order to retain the families who, for whatever reason, whether it's a trend or something that is hearsay, that are leaving before school begins or before the middle school transition, again, I think I'm echoing most of the folks who sit up here alongside of me and saying that we need to sing the praises of the things that are good and stop telling stories that are 20 years old about a fight at the gate that people stopped caring about about 20 years ago. And are there things that happen occasionally that, let's say, oh, it's too bad to happen? I'll probably mention this up. Yeah, it's too bad to happen. That's the kind of thing that unfortunately gets the attention. Should we do more PR? Certainly. But we have to put our money and time where we care, as Kathy said. And we have to care about the kids, and 89% of our budget we can't change. So we need to do the best we can as a community to be involved, know what's going on, and sing the praises of the good things, and be willing to pitch in where we can to help.
Okay, let's see. Who was first? You were first. No, Brian was first. Lisa's first. Brian was first. Lisa is first. I'm going to try to get 3 more questions in. It may take us a couple of minutes over 8:30. I've done a lot of these candidates forums, and I don't very often come across questions that deal with a topic that I not only know nothing about, but haven't even heard of. But I've got 2 of them here. So I want the answers. So the first one is, what are your feelings about Northgate's academic rating according to PDE? Please define it for me. The question doesn't say please define it. I say please define it.
Pennsylvania Department of Education, I believe.
Oh, okay, that's pretty obvious. I must be losing it.
Yeah, the ratings just came out recently. We went at the school board meeting the other day, which, unfortunately, there weren't many people there to learn what's going on. So I do encourage people to please start coming to school board meetings. The ratings, you got me on PDE. Okay. What do I feel about the Northgate ratings? They're not the best. So I believe the high school rating was 66, I believe it was. Yes, it was 66 out of a certain amount. And I know that Dan and Jen can go a little bit more into depth as far as specifics as the educators that they are. We are 66. I know that Bellevue was 83, and Avalon was 70, or 84 and 73, I believe, were the ratings for each one of them. So I gave you the ratings, and they can tell you what I think about them.
That's a good strategy. I can't do that one. Well, I think that I think I was a little bit disappointed by the assessment scores, and I might be wrong, but I believe that these assessment scores actually did have a little bit of that new keystone testing, and so I'm not entirely sure if the scores were lower because it's only been 1 year that our faculty and students have had to familiarize themselves with this new style of testing. I know they're a little bit, they seem to be a little bit different than the PSSAs. So I think that they're definitely less than what I would like to see, and I would hope that given 1 more year, they'll continue to get better. And I think that this new testing system may actually take into account for the first time ever, they weight some of the progress. So before, instead of just getting assessed and valued on how many people pass or fail the test, they're going to put a little bit of emphasis on the progress that your students make throughout the year.
Yeah, and you're right on all those percentages. Thank you for doing that portion. The components of that school performance profile from the Pennsylvania Department of Education, I get my notes here. They're based on academic achievement, PSSA, the Keystone, competency assessment, grade 3 PSSA reading, the SAT and the ACT. All those factor in. You can go onto the PDE website. It gives you a breakdown of everything about every district in Pennsylvania. It can tell you everything about every district. You can compare Northgate to districts surrounding. 2013 is a baseline year. We can only go up from here. Let's hope. I think this is a way to hold people accountable, classrooms accountable, schools accountable. When I saw 84% at Bellevue, I thought, okay. And then it just went down for Avalon, and it went even further down for Northgate, and my heart sunk. There is a blatant problem. Something needs to change. Something in our classrooms needs to change for our kids. Something's wrong. We need to improve our scores. Again, our kids should not be based only on scores, but there's something that needs to change.
Could you repeat the question just so I can answer it?
What are your feelings about Northgate's academic rating according to the PDE?
Okay, my feelings are that I'd like to see those ratings improve from this baseline year. And the kids at the school are more than a test score. The state wants a test score, they want ACTs and SATs, they want to know what the attendance rates are, they want to look at all of the data. And it's important that the administration, who is very knowledgeable, as Ms. Terry shared last week, gets that information to the staff and they utilize it to make their decisions and get that to the teachers. However, I think that if we truly dig in, we as a district and as a community, and invest in the children, with of course knowing how the assessment's facilitated, the kid needs to know which dog goes where on the page. But outside of those logistics, I think if we really educate the whole child, not just the math and the reading of the child, that we will see those the benefits long term.
When Ms. Lettieri presented the performance profile on the PD website at the last school board meeting, I was a little disappointed with Northgate's scores. The nice thing about it being up on the web is that anyone can go check it out, and do that. Any family looking to move anywhere in the school districts in PA can go in there and look at your scores. And like the other candidates mentioned, that we would like to see these scores improved, but that's not going to happen if we don't stop treating Northgate as a business and treat it more like an institution of learning. If we try to max out our class sizes and skimp on supplies and increase the workload for everyone, and not think about the children first, then I don't think we're going to see those scores increase. So I'd like to see them increase, and I'd like to see Northgate put education first, and if they do that, I think we'll see an increase.
Okay, here's the other one about something I don't know anything about. Do you support the New Horizons Drop-In Center? Nobody knows anything about it either? I'm seeing blank looks. Nope, fine. Maybe the person who asked that can speak to you later. I'm sort of curious. Last question. What impact do you expect to have on the district if you get elected?
Well, the impact that I hope, or the area that I hope to impact the most is in the area of communication, PR, and marketing. I feel like I've worked at Robert Morris University for 7 years, or 8 years I think now, and I know it's a higher education facility, but some of the stuff that we've struggled with along the way has really given me some insight that I didn't even know I could use for the Northgate School District. We had, a struggle to get families to consider us as their first choice, and we've been able to work and figure out ways to attract. We now have record class sizes, and we keep having to build new dorms, which is really great. But I think that with communications and some of those strategies that I've learned along the way, I'll really be able to help offer an opinion that we don't currently have on the current school board. I think having a school board with a variety of backgrounds, really makes the strongest school board that you can have. If everyone has the same background, it gets a little tough to think of new things.
When we talk about the impact on the district that I can make personally, I want to bring to the table my perspective and my thoughts on communication as a parent, as a teacher, as a community member, as a taxpayer, as a graduate of Northgate. I want to share my vision with the board and the community. I want to collaborate with the boroughs. I think we need a tri-council of Avalon Borough and the school board, which is happening right now. I know that they're meeting. There's Mrs. Jackson is actually meeting. Numerous people on the school board are meeting with other people in the councils. So it's important that we collaborate with one another to come up with ideas. And I think in regards to the future of our kids here, it's not a teacher's responsibility alone to raise a child. It is a group effort. It comes from teachers, parents, administration, our churches, coaches, down to the police officers to protect them in the streets and cross them at the crossing guards. It takes a community to raise our children, and I think we need to learn to work together to make that happen.
Some areas that I would like to impact if I am re-elected to serve on the school board, I would like to, on the theme of partnering with the municipalities, work on the area of getting rid of liens on properties that are just going to become blight. Let's get the back of the tax rolls. Let's get people in there that want to be in this community, who want to be a part of the tax base and raise a family here. Let's get these places fixed up and back in the tax rolls. I'd also, we're already making some progress with this, although it's slow, work on getting some cyber offerings for students. We can't ignore it. As a teacher, is that the way every child learns best? No, but we cannot ignore it. We must compete. $600,000 a year leaving the district to follow these children is not acceptable. We need to keep that here, and that's all I have.
I was a little disappointed earlier to hear some people say that there's nothing we can do regarding various mandates or whatever, but that's why we're all here. We're all here because we want to try to do something. And so, what I think an impact I will have is to keep up the work that I've been doing. I've attended all school board meetings in 2013 because, I want to know what's going on as a concerned parent. And I'll continue to voice my concerns, regardless of whether or not I'm elected at those meetings. And continue to rally neighbors and sort of help spread important information throughout the district. I started a blog to try to help spread information, and if I was elected to the school board, I'd have a little more information and to be able to share with the community. Certain things like continue to try to fight politically to advocate for school funding. I've called the state representative, state senator, and the governor's office on behalf of funding and education. I think we need to put education first, and that's what I would like to do if elected.
So first I want to say, I think that this community is really, really lucky, because if you take a look up here, I think everybody has wonderful things to offer, and I don't think that we're going to go wrong, whoever winds up ending up on council. I mean, I really do. We have a great group of people. We have a great community. Myself, as I said, I'm not an educator, but I am a nurse. I have a history of doing assessments. I look at things, I analyze things, and I try to break it down to the bottom line and try to figure out what's wrong. Until you get into a situation, you don't know for sure. So I mean, do I know everything? No, I haven't seen all the finances. I don't know all the ins and outs of everything right now. But my goal is to take a look at everything, break it down to the smallest denominator, and then try to find the best way to come back. One of the things that I did want to bring up is that being that I work with the elderly, one of the community, we have so many elderly, and I would really like to involve the elderly and the children and really promote that, because our senior citizens have so much to offer to our children, and I just would really like to promote that as the school district and the community itself.
Okay, well, here you have the beginnings of the team, because you're going to get 4 of them anyhow. And they seem to all work together well. So that's a start. Can we thank our candidates, please? Okay, remember to go and vote. I think there's still some cookies back there. And I think this is also probably some of our voters' guides, and be sure you check out smartvoter.org. Thank you for coming. I enjoyed doing this very much.
Thank you.